Welcome back to a special edition of Sunday Night in America. Every year, we run a deficit, which means the national debt keeps going up. Both parties have presided over increases in the debt, and what's required to balance the budget, even for a year, would be very politically unpopular, perhaps a political death sentence. So what are the solutions to get our spending under control? Joining us now, President of the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, Maya McGinnis, and Iowa Congressman Randy Feenstra. Maya, let's start with you. Can the budget ever be balanced without tackling mandatory spending?
Absolutely not. The biggest growth component of our federal budget situation right now, and I should say that situation is really quite bad, the biggest component of that is our growth in our big healthcare and retirement programs. Both of those areas are growing faster than the overall economy. And frankly, we've made promises in them that we don't have the resources to keep. And for years, actually for decades, we have been delaying the necessary changes that have to be made to shore up those programs, to strengthen those programs, so the benefits that we've promised to people will be able to make good on. And that's really what the first step in getting our finances under control should be.
All right, Congressman, you are in a line of work that requires you to be, you got to vote on some tough issues, but you got to be there to do it, which means you got to get elected. The voters say they want a balanced budget and a reduction of the debt, but politically, this is going to require sacrifice on their behalf. So how do you balance delivering bad news to people that have to vote for you?
Well, the bottom line is this. I hear it from my 39 counties that I travel to every year that people are seeing the problems, and our seniors are starting to worry that what happens to Social Security and Medicare when it goes bankrupt in the next 10 years. And if you look at what has happened, people are starting to see that when you have out of control spending, which has created inflation, all of a sudden their interest rate goes up on their house, goes up on their credit card, goes up on their car payment, and they're starting to realize that, wait a minute, we've got a budget problem, and they're starting to come to grips with, we've got to do something about it.
All right, Rome was not built in a day, they tell me, and if you look at the cumulative debt, it's overwhelming. It's a number we can't even contemplate. So rather than get depressed, let's say we want to make progress today, incremental progress. Congressman, we'll start with you and then you, Maya. I mean, what's something, if we can't fix it all today, what's something we can do that at least starts it in the right direction? Congressman, you first and then Maya.
Absolutely. I think there's three things. First of all, we got to stop digging. We got to stop digging ourselves into further debt. We've got to start looking at how do we start managing our discretionary spending? How do we start putting a framework together that digs us out of the hole, that we get to a balanced budget? Number two is we have to start looking at mandatory spending and create sustainability long term. So we don't have a Social Security trust fund that will go bankrupt in 10 years, that we can do things that will make it sustainable for generations ahead of us. And then finally, we have to control inflation, because that is the biggest precursor we have to our debt spiral right now. When we have bond yields that were 1.5% a year and a half ago, now at 3.7%, we're doubling our costs on interest on our debt. So those are the three things that need to be worked on and that can be accomplished.
Maya?
Yeah, well, let me just say I agree with the congressman completely. Let me take a step back and remind people that the reason you need to do this is that a debt that is out of control weakens not only our economy, which it weakens significantly, but it also leaves us unprepared for emergencies where we might need to borrow legitimately instead of just borrowing because no one feels like paying for the bills. But it also weakens us geopolitically. And we have to keep in mind that we are borrowing a good deal of money from abroad, becoming more dependent on other countries, and it is a national security threat. So in order to do those things, I agree with the congressman. I think the very first step is we actually need to start passing budgets. We almost never have budgets in place in the country, and this has happened, years on end where we don't pass a budget, we nearly have a government shutdown. And instead, what we need to do is put forth a plan for how to run the country, and it needs to have a fiscal goal. And that fiscal goal can't be, oh, you can borrow as much as you want because you don't feel like paying for things. Instead, we have to have credible debt targets that will bring the amount of borrowing and our debt trajectory down from where it currently is. I agree with the Congressman. We need to think about how we pay for any new priorities. We should make a deal that in this year, here's a resolution, 2023, no new borrowing unless it's for a legitimate emergency. We should just agree that if you want to have new spending, how will you pay for it? If you want to cut taxes, what spending are you also going to cut? But no new borrowing. We should put in place discretionary spending caps, which help keep a cap on the budget. And we have to look at those mandatory spending programs, which we've delayed on for so many years. By delaying, we have made the people who depend on them much more vulnerable, and that's not fair to the people who are parts of the program. So that's an important fiscal goal, and it's an important goal for the programs themselves.
Maya, Congressman, thank you for joining us. I can't tell you the number of times I've been in a room and I ask people, how many of you want a balanced budget next year? And every hand goes up. But I don't know that they know what that means in terms of cuts. To get to balance in 1 year, and that doesn't even talk about paying off trillions of dollars. But look, it took us a long time to get here. It's going to take a long time to get out. So hopefully y'all will come back on and we can talk about it again. In the meantime, Happy New Year to both of you.
You too. Thank you.
You too, Trey and Maya.
Thank you.